here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we'd love a special guest this week. It's going to be the turn of Chris Anderson, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry, and all that other groovy stuff. Has done a lot of musical projects, including Departure Lounge, Supermodel, Map. Also goes by the name of Crayola, Lectern. So you're going to find out more about his interesting and fascinating life in music and creativity in this interview. So do take notes, there's a lot to digest. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Chris, it's over to you.
The first thing that made me kind of like really sort of stop was the sound of big band music, the close harmonies of the saxophones. It was like velvet. And I loved the kind of the notes that they were playing and the way they kind of like, they were really close harmonies, and they just did something that was sort of like, I thought, cool. That's nice.
And how did you get to hear those when you were young?
Well, I think there was things like the Glenn Miller Story film that was on television. There was a dance band that they had at school, and I used to listen to them rehearsing. And then I joined them and became the leader of that band, actually. And we played some concerts while I was still kind of in the sixth form and stuff.
So was Glenn Miller your go-to artist at that stage?
Well, no. I mean, it was one of them, wasn't it? You know, it's because there was, I mean, from 13 or so, I mean, the thing I fell in love with before early on was probably Glenn Miller, but also ELO, other things that were going on.
Did it always have to have a brass section in it?
No, because I loved Gary Newman, Two Boy Army, you know,
right.
Adam and the Ants.
Well, I was always kind of curious of that period of music, because there was the Andrews Sisters and obviously Glenn Miller, and it was just because I grew up in a village in East Anglia which had a Second World War airfield, so that was our go-to place, and then sort of found this kind of whole map of all these other airfields and found out that Glenn Miller had played in Hellsworth, a little town in Suffolk.
Actually, there was a place. I'm from Bedford originally, and outside Bedford is RAF Cardington,
right?
Which is where Glenn Miller was based, and our dance band played a gig there. That was quite exciting.
Well, I would imagine, yes. I just seen some photographs of this, and you thought, God, that would have been just extraordinary. You know, just thinking, what an amazing concert. Yeah. And all those airfields always had their band. You know, they would have a band, and that was, again, I've seen Metfield with a picture of some musicians, and thinking, God, that's just so evocative that, you know, this little village that didn't even have any, you know, transportation, sewage systems, water systems, suddenly had an airfield with planes and then cinemas and bowling alleys.
Totally. Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it?
It's just, you know, and
I think when I get, you know, if I get older, I'll probably go back to dance band music. I think what I'd like to do in the end would be to kind of like just start up a dance band and play pre-existing arranged music. You know,
yes, well, you
play some balls and stuff like that. And
can you remember? Can you remember was it Robert De Niro and is it Liza Minnelli? They were in one of those Scorsese films where he plays the band leader. Was it? Which was one of those classics.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was quite brutal as well, but there you go. At times. So yes. So did you? Because I had an older brother who gave me a massive influence in music. He was into prog rock, and he did have an ELO album in there as well. So did you have any older brothers or sisters that played a part in your life?
Yeah, my sister Sally. You know, she was really into her music. So I mean, she was into the Beatles very much. Anything with Paul McCartney in it. So, which wasn't bad because you got Wings as well.
You got Band on the Run.
You know, exactly. And that was one of the LPs that I heard a lot coming out of her room. We both had these kind of tiny little red and white record player things probably from Argos.
Or Green Shield stamps.
Yeah. And so, and I think I kind of commandeered some of her LPs. You know, there was a bit of an exchange going on, a bit of a one-way exchange. I think I probably got some of her LPs still.
Yes.
But also, you know, it's like there was good music coming out of her bedroom.
So and what did you start playing music-wise, instrument?
Well, I started learning the piano really early, about 5, and then the first other instrument apart from the recorder was the saxophone. So I played the alto sax. I still play the alto sax.
Right, a bit like David Bowie.
Very like David Bowie. In fact, we could almost be the same person.
Yes.
But, God, it's strange. Well, no, obviously not, because he's dead. But yes, so the alto sax, and then I took up the oboe on the back of that, because the oboe, I mean, the thing about having learned the saxophone is that everything else is a bit, I mean, after learning the piano, learning other instruments is pretty straightforward, because you're only really, with a saxophone and an oboe, you're only playing one note at a time. You know, you're not playing chords or kind of like doing interesting, weird modulations. You're just playing a top line, aren't you? Or you're doing stabby bits or rhythmic stuff. And it's so it's quite easy to just go shooting on ahead with all that knowledge that you've kind of like accumulated from learning the piano. I found the sax really easy and natural to play. I didn't know they were called when I was little. I just knew they were these golden S-shaped instruments that made this beautiful sound.
Right.
And my mum and dad took me to see Johnny Dankworth at Wavendon Stables and stuff like that, which was outside Bedford. And that's when I first saw a saxophone being properly played. And it was like, oh, yeah, this is it. Cleo Lane was on the door doing the tickets.
Well, good old Leo, probably with one of those little dinosaur stamps on your back of the hand.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
I was totally obsessed with saxophones. And I think that obsession just, you know, when you're obsessed with something like that, you kind of embody it. As soon as you start playing it, it becomes an extension of you. So I never thought I was particularly great on the sax, but I got lots of really good comments, which kind of kept it going along.
Right. Yes, I do. I do remember in the 80s, though. I think I went to see one of those gigs that you vaguely have a memory of. Is Courtney Pine? He was.
Oh yeah. I used to rehearse in the same places.
He was very much on the scene. I seem to remember sitting at the front, watching him with all these other musicians doing their thing. But then we also started going to those kind of. Was it Geno Washington, the Ram?
Okay, the Ram Jam Band.
But there was a sort of that sound and the soul sound that was coming out, wasn't there, as well?
Yeah.
But yes, orchestral bands. Yeah. So when you got to 16, then did you stay on and do your A levels at this stage? And
I stayed on and did A levels with Latin. And my mum was a Latin teacher, so I kind of got some.
She would have been disappointed.
Tuition.
Yes, and there's no pressure, but did you get an A?
No, and I got a D, and I got a C in English, and an O in French, which was really upsetting because I thought I'd done quite well.
Right. Well,
I found French really easy, and then I went and messed it up.
And how did your mum cope with the D? That was kind of.
Well, she was a gentle soul. She didn't mind.
Oh, that's excellent.
She helped me get into Middlesex Polytechnic, you know, filled in the forms while I sat there going,
And what did she put down for you at that stage, at Middlesex?
Well, I joined it as the humanities, the BA humanities degree, and that swiftly turned into a BSc in psychology.
Right.
So. And then, of course, it was great because I moved to Tottenham to do that. So,
And what period was
quite
this?
keen to get
What
away
year
from
was that?
1985.
85. So this is a classic period of indie pop music at this point. Had you started to become interested, obsessed about music at this
I'd
point?
already been really into loads of it. Wasn't all Glenn Miller up until then.
No, and the Andrews Sisters and
I mean, really,
Cab Calloway.
The first thing that really hit me after Glenn Miller was Ska, two-tone.
Right.
And the specials in particular and Madness. But
what about the Beat?
Yeah, I love the Beat. I had their first album.
Just can't stop it.
The sax player. And again, a lot of stuff with saxophones in it. But also I started sort of liking it on a sort of deeper level, a sort of understanding a kind of like that it was more about society and it was a bit more about justice and
yes,
and stuff that, you know, I hadn't really had drilled into me at a younger age. So really, bands like the Specials really started giving me a sense of what the world was really about. And of course, having moved to Tottenham, I kind of felt it a lot more keenly. Obviously, this was years later. I was in Tottenham. But
did you before that? Were you at all? Because the 80s, you know, we had the Thatcher years, the Falkland, the miners' strike, Greenham Common. But we also musically we had the New Romantic period. But there was that kind of jazz fusion soul vibe, wasn't there? There was Sade, Working Week, and those sort of bands that were coming out of various other places.
I remember liking the Working Week stuff. Someone else had it, and I thought that was all right. I wasn't really into any of that stuff, though. It was funny. It was like I was very, very selective all the way through the 80s. And when everybody else kind of like, by 1986, I wasn't really listening to any of that. I was listening to Hawkwind and Gong.
Right.
And it was like, and I was eschewing a lot of kind of indie music at that point.
So music, yes. Well,
I mean, I'd like stuff like the Monochrome set and these kind of the Cherry Red stuff that had come out on that Pillows and Prayers compilation. That sort of piqued my interest for a while. So I sort of went down various rabbit holes.
Yes. That was a rabbit hole. I mean, 199. You couldn't go wrong, could you? And it had all those classic.
That was amazing.
It was amazing. It was a sort of a landmark album, really. And it did have some extraordinary things on. And even if you didn't like them, you sort of pretended to like them. It was a bit like there was one of those...
Yeah, you listened to them until you did like them.
You did, because...
That's how radio worked in those days as well. They just hammered you over the head with Like a Virgin or whatever it was until you thought, oh, I clearly like this because...
Or Spandau Ballet.
It's stuck in my head. It's an earworm, therefore I like it. Of course, that's not the way reality works.
No, my God. Simon Bates's, I don't know what it was, Our Song or something, Our Tune, I think he used to have. Yes, I know. It always ended up with, the love of his life or her life. And then he was diagnosed with something and died a week later. But this was the song, and it would be True, by Final. It was nauseating at the best time. I was emotionally detached. But then also there was the there was the alternative indie scene, I suppose, whether it was kind of jingly jangly guitars or sort of, I don't know, there was so many other bands. There was a goth scene, there was New Romantics, there was New Paisley. I mean, I kind of appreciated stuff like I like the Jazz Butcher. I mean, they were people who came on my radar before I left school. Yes.
And I thought I was maybe the coolest guy in Bedford for liking
Yes, well,
Jazz
quite.
Butcher. And I had a friend called Nick who was actually probably slightly cooler than me, who was the one who liked the Jazz Butcher first. But it was his elder brother, who was your age, who actually liked the Jazz Butcher.
Yes.
We were just trying to be. Well, there was just something magical about the Jazz Butcher, and it was like this insouciance that there was a sort of. They were quite beautiful, and their music was very cool, and they had very lovely voices. And,
oh God, yes, absolutely. Pat was just such a sophisticated dude, and I did an interview with someone recently who knew him and sort of said he he had quite the background. He's quite a family life behind him, some sort of quite, I don't know, prestigious.
I play in a band called Departure Lounge. We've been going for like 20-odd years, 25 years, 26,
yes.
27 years, and 28, actually. Anyway, whatever. And Tim Keegan, our singer, he was very close with Pat wrote some liner notes for one of the albums.
Right.
Tim's albums. But yeah, he was... Yeah, I was only a step away from Pat Fish, but unfortunately he passed away.
Well, I know that was a bit of a sad story.
And now Max as well, Max Ryder.
Oh God, I know. That's but we're at that age, I'm afraid. It's all going to be, the obituary pages in Mojo are going to be filled with people that we remember, which is going to be haunting us all the time. With just going back to your love of sort of the free festival movement of Gong and Hawkwind, did this coincide with sort of, I don't know, smoking dope and taking acid at this point and going to festivals?
Yes, it did.
Right.
Yeah. No, I kind of had a major sort of change. In 1985, I'd been... I was quite into weight training, and I'd entered a bodybuilding competition.
My God,
I was working as a bouncer at the Limelight and at the Fridge in Brixton at the age of 19, and not letting 21-year-olds in half the time. And I'd had a kind of background in that and martial arts and stuff. And then suddenly I realised that the life was much, much more interesting than I had been led to believe, because those mushrooms and those kind of things sort of rather took hold, especially when it came to sort of like the musical context and hearing kind of envelope filters and oscillators and modular synths sort of working in with music and kind of creating something bigger and more expansive that you could kind of walk into as a kind of environment rather than just dance along to or think, oh, this is nice and jolly. This was like something kind of like deep and heavy and just felt really sort of textural, tangible, like walking into a room. This music was a place, and I think, sort of smoking quite a lot of dope, as I think most of us did at Middlesex Polytechnic in 1986, 1987. I ended up living with Osric Tentacles.
Oh my God, the Osrics!
That didn't help. So there was a squat in Hampstead in Ferncroft Avenue. I didn't really have much to do with them. They were upstairs. I was on the ground floor. But I knew Rowley, the bass player, a bit.
Right.
And they recorded their tape albums upstairs in kind of a converted attic space, I think.
Oh, God, yes.
But I was really into them as well, because I didn't really know what a delay pedal was. And I thought they were playing all those notes. I thought, they're bloody geniuses, these guys. This is amazing. How do they do that? And then I discovered the delay pedal.
And you thought...
And I thought, oh, okay. They're still really good.
How it's done. So did you come across at that stage? Did you start going to festivals as well? Was that on your...
Yeah, as well, yes. Glastonbury Reading from about 1986 onwards, I think, pretty well.
Because my first Glastonbury was 87, and my partner...
Oh, when The Cure played.
Wow. And
there was a big thunderstorm.
The Bundu Boys played in 87 with New Order. But that was a year my partner went, and she went, oh, yeah, I saw this. She was saying we were camped near the Travellers' Fields, and we loved a band called Ring. And that,
right, okay. I was talking to one of them earlier today.
Was that Bic?
Yes, it was Bic. Yes, I've been on the phone to Bic.
The Bic, and obviously, and it was years later that we met, and then we started talking about our festival experiences, and It was like, oh, well, I was off watching the Bundy Boys and you were off, watching Ring. So were you starting to get into the free festival movement at that stage as well?
Only in my imagination. I didn't really do the Stonehenge thing. My flatmates all went on the year of the Battle of the Beanfield,
right?
Which was 85, was it, or 86?
Yes.
They were my flatmates, and they came back quite traumatised, and after that, so that would have been a time I would have gone. I don't know why I didn't go, because they all went.
But it's interesting on that point of if you ever want to watch an interesting video, Dale Vince, who's Mr. Ecotricity, he was there sort of being chased around the countryside by the police and being arrested, and he's got quite an interesting take as well. I mean, there's various footage and films and documentaries, but I never heard him being interviewed about that day and what happened to him as he was trying to escape, and it sounded like some Mad Max meets Steve McQueen in The Great Escape. Really, it was quite hideous.
Yeah. It was an awful situation. Lots of families are involved and caught up in it.
Yes.
A lot of the travellers had children.
Well, yes, and it was just a nightmare. So, luckily, it's never going to happen like that again. Perhaps. Oh, we laugh, don't we?
Yeah, so much for progress, eh?
I know, you have to be smart now, don't we? So, yeah, so then you were at Middlesex on your student grant, listening to Lloyd Cole and the Commotions.
Yes, I listened to Lloyd Cole and Commotions and
watching Betty. And were you watching Betty Blue and Stranger Than Paradise?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was doing all of that. Yeah,
excellent. Who wasn't?
We were all doing the same thing, weren't we?
Wings of Desire. Going, God, that's so deep.
Yeah. I'd love to go back there and just sort of observe.
Yes, the smell of patchouli. That was all good, and joss sticks. So when did you start sort of making music in a band at this point?
Well, I've been making music in band since I was about 14. So, at school we had a band called The Great Unwashed. We did our first...
That is such a good name.
It is, and I went and ruined it by changing the band name without telling the rest of the band.
Oh, that is such a
that was a stupid thing to do, and of course the guitarist never spoke to me again. That was it. But we did do a gig.
Not really musical differences, just
no, me being a complete sort of
dictatorship.
Yeah, no, how dare? Well, we did a gig at Mosbury Park Golf Club variety show when we were about 14, right? And that was our first gig, and it just happened that all of us, none of us, well, I think actually maybe a couple of them had smoked dope, but all of the songs were about drugs. We did Cocaine by Eric Clapton, Cream, or whatever. We did The Needle and the Damage Done, Neil Young.
Yeah, good.
And Purple Haze.
God, that's so ambitious.
So, and it didn't occur to us.
What about The Doors? Did you do anything by The Doors? Break On Through?
No, we didn't actually, no, we were quite limited.
What, Purple Haze?
Yeah, Purple Haze and Wild Thing, of course, But but we did a gig to these kind of. It wasn't a posh golf club; it was sort of a community golf club. I suppose the people who were there thought they were posh, but
this was the 80s.
What the hell were we doing there, and why did we choose to do those songs? And it's one of those things. There are no photos, but I know it happened. We were talking about using photos for our memory.
Yes.
I just have the memory of it happening and it being slightly underwhelming experience. Didn't quite get the adulation we were hoping for.
Didn't get booked for their Christmas bazaar.
No.
And
then we went on to play a gig to some real punks at Cranfield sort of Scout Hut. There was a fanzine called Premature, and they were real punks, and we played sort of these, very young people playing sort of hippie music. And the punks were really kind to us, actually. They sort of, they didn't spit at us.
Well, that's good, because, I mean, Lemmy, though he was kind of pretty in the world of rock and roll and pretty heavy, the punk, he was also quite a punk at heart, even though he had the long hair and the denim jacket.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he was more into his kind of biker speed thing, wasn't he, rather than, well, he liked psychedelia, but yeah, I mean...
And there were other bands who were on that sort of fringe. I don't know if they were around or had just a bit later. There were people like the Toffee Love Frogs.
No, I knew one of them. Oh, God, what was his name? Chris, the Toffee Love Frogs. Yeah, they were. And there was
and the Seven Kevins as well, which was another one of
the Seven Kevins at the Electric Ballroom supporting Gone Maison or something.
Yeah, so there was a whole scene, and I did an interview with a couple of members of the Tested department, and they were sort of talking about their famous squat where they would be doing all their music. The squat scene was very important to the musical fabric of the 80s, really, wasn't it?
Well, I think without Dole and without squats, there would have been hardly any kind of bands worth listening to, really. I mean, I think nowadays, a lot of people who have that kind of compulsion to create, they have to go and do it at some kind of music university or like BIM or something like that, because they don't have the Dole, they don't have the kind of free housing, and society set up where if you do, then you're probably a terrorist.
Well, it was you probably, yes, you are going to be. Yeah. Well, I think there was you would have got a grant for your 3 years of higher education, but there was also unemployment and job seekers allowance and enterprise allowance schemes that people were on, and then you had housing benefit and your council tax paid, and then voila,
and you had to prove that you were looking for work. And I used to go in when I lived in London for a long time, and then I moved to Brighton. And when I was in Brighton, the woman in the Dole office, I could tell her that I was sort of like, I played a gig, that's looking for work. And she was very good, her son, she said, my son's in a band, you may have heard of them, they're Suede. And I think he was the bass player. Is it Matt Osman? I don't know. But I think it was, anyway, one of their mums. And she was really lovely. She said, you boys, you work so hard. Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
So, yes, that kind of kept us going until the next review, for reviewing our kind of like old status.
So what happened after the Great Unwashed then?
Well, the Great Unwashed, I then organised a charity rock concert at my school, and changed the name, and then they never spoke to me again. But after that, I went to Middlesex Poly, and I briefly joined a group called the Funkin' Bar Stewards, who all comprised of bar stewards,
right?
And, including myself, because I worked behind a pub in Edmonton at that point. And I played the sax in that band, not for very long. I think we did a gig, maybe two. I think the guitarist, Winnie, had won rock school, so he was the sort of cool one.
Yes. Well,
and then I joined this Anglo-Australian group called the Wilder Shores, and they had kind of members of, they used to play gigs at places like the Canterbury Arms and Brixton and the Cricketers at the Oval. I saw them before I joined them, and they were kind of linked in with the kind of Saints, Laughing Clowns, birthday parties.
Right, Chris Bailey.
Yeah, and Louise Elliott, who played the sax in the Saints and the Laughing Clowns, played some sax in the Wild Shores, and Geoffrey Wagner, the drummer from the birthday party in the Saints and the Laughing Clowns, he did a stint in the Wilder Shores. But I kind of came in as the new boy towards the end, and then we did a few gigs, and then that band morphed into what became MAP, which was my first proper band, which I kind of sort of took quite a lead role in.
Right.
And that was all about playing in impossibly stupid key signatures and what they used to call bendy prog music, sort of prog punk.
Yes.
A label that nobody liked at all because it conjured up images of being annoying. But yes, and so that's how we ended up on the cardiac radar through a fanzine called Organ Fanzine, who kind of took an interest in us and I guess sort of set up some nice gigs, and we played some. That's when things started. That's when we thought, actually, yeah, I'm going to let the blind faith kick in now, and this is what we do from now.
Blimey, that was your. So just before that, because you mentioned the Australian bands, because there was quite a lot of bands who came over squatting in that 80s.
That's
like
right, yeah.
The Go-Betweens and the Triffids and various, and I think from New Zealand the Chills came over to squat, and so did you ever go to the ambulance station in London, in North London? Because there was a particular venue called the Ambulance Station where
I know of it.
People like Jesus and the Mary Chain played one of their first gigs there.
If I did, I can't remember.
But then after that, you had that kind of world of My Bloody Valentine and the Faith Healers and Silverfish and Carter.
I used to see Silverfish an awful lot. Yeah, I was really into Silverfish.
Yeah, because you had Leslie, but you also had Stuart on drums and Fuzz on guitar, didn't you?
Well, Fuzz was so watchable as well. He was so amazing, and he's from a family of an extremely gifted family, the Dupreys. Fuzzy's brother Angus played some drums in Map. In fact, there was I think 4 or 5 brothers. There's Rodney, who played the keyboards, and he played in Ad Nauseam,
right?
Who also comprised John Paul and Bob Leaf, who became Cardiacs.
Yes.
So Rodney was a keyboard player, Fuzz was a guitarist, Angus was a drummer. There was Anselm, who played in Scissorman, bass player, and they sort of, some of them formed a band with our other drummer Simon called the Instincts. 2 words: INSTINKS. I mean, they were such a gifted bunch of people. That
it sounds like
they've got such character. You can imagine if they all formed a band themselves.
Well, it's a bit like the Osmonds, then, the London version of the Osmonds or the Jacksons.
No, they were, and I was really quite I used to watch Fuzz's guitar playing a lot in Silverfish, and I just thought, this guy's the coolest guy.
Yeah, well, no,
and Leslie, of course, was amazing.
She was just very charismatic, really, on stage, wasn't she? At that stage, they just had an amazing
brilliant performance.
Yes, well, I saw them supporting My Bloody Valentine at the Norwich Arts Centre, and was a bit like, God, this is the best band in the world,
Yeah, and then we had bands that kind of came sort of around that time. No Means No.
Oh yes, they did an album with Jello Biafra at one stage, didn't they?
That's right, The Last Temptation of Reed, something like that.
Yeah,
but they were, again, they did something very special to my synapses, and even Henry Rollins at that time, I quite enjoyed his sort of solo stuff. It was so angry that it was funny, It's like the kind of Map was like that. We were so angry that we didn't even know what we were angry about because we were too angry, too busy being angry. and there was this, it was almost comedic, this kind of like the sheer impotence of our anger.
But you had bands like there's a band called Terminal Cheesecake around.
Yeah, well, Angus, who I just talked about, was their drummer as well. Angus, Fozzy's brother.
Right.
So he drummed in Terminal Cheesecake. He now plays something else in RDF, Radical Dance Faction.
Oh, RDF, yes, because there was all those. There was a whole sort of Bristol had a bit of a reggae scene, didn't they? The Rhythmalites.
Yeah, right, yeah.
They were just brilliant, and they were on Ouija Records, which was Silverfish's label as well.
Yeah.
All in Southern Studios, wasn't it? That was the go-to place. And there was a lot of because did you get this book by he says, God, I should have rehearsed this, shouldn't I? But yeah, Joe Dilworth's book on...
No, I know about that book. I've never got it. Yeah, no.
I mean, it's very evocative of a lot of those gigs and flats and transit vans and, people hanging out
vans,
with the white transit vans, which yes, didn't look like it properly passed an MOT, but hey ho. So then, so this is the map. Was the 90s period for you, wasn't it? The John Major years.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, so we're looking at kind of 93, 94, 95. There was a few years kind of between Wilder Shores and Map where we just jammed. And sometimes we'd have like kind of two drummers. It'd be Angus and Simon Walker from the Wilder Shores. They'd be set up with two drum kits. I'd be on bass, Emma would be playing guitar, and it would just be 4 solid hours of thrashing our arses off, which is why I now wear hearing aids.
Well, yes, unfortunately, yes.
But it was a really weird sort of rehearsal place in Gospel Oak.
So you did one single, Doesn't Always Get.
Yeah, kind of a 10-inch EP, and we did a tape before that, and then after that we did an album, but just Emma and me, but it never got released because we gave the money to the record label because they were going to do it, and it was just the kind of the label that had run the fanzine, Organ Fanzine. But yes. I think they spent it, so that never came out. Wow. But they did put out the 10-inch.
Yes. And did that go down quite well?
Well, they called it like the Slits eating Susie and the Banshees for breakfast whilst high on crack. That's what the NME called it. I don't know if they liked it or not.
God, they love doing that. I mean, makes no sense, that, does it, at all?
No. I mean, I like the references.
But what does it mean?
Yeah, well, you had to read it every week to understand the nuance, didn't you?
I would always miss the first 2 paragraphs because they were just gibberish rubbish. And you think, well, yeah, but...
Get to the point.
It's like, well, the music, just give me an idea, because you couldn't just go and stream it quickly and have a listen. And you thought, I'm not sure, I still have no idea what they're talking about. I don't know.
And yet they were the ones that we needed, weren't they? They were what we got every couple of weeks. It's like.
Well, it was kind of interesting, that period from the 80s and 90s, because you did have 3 weekly music papers, which had
Sounds huge. Was my favourite.
And Melody Maker as well, and NME, and then you had the John Peel Show and Janice Long, Kid Jensen, and and then every city and town had an alternative indie night. Did just help bands go, well, we can get a transit van and we can pretend to be on tour and just play the circuit, and it was brilliant in so many ways.
Did you play in a band?
I didn't play in the band, but I went to the Norwich Wild Club a lot to see these bands. Yeah. And if I could say something to my younger self, it was like, just go to all of them. It does, for $2.99 or $2.50 or £3 to see 3 bands, and they're all well-known bands now. But you just thought, you just missed. That was the moment, wasn't it? And that's
there was. I remember like a baby Stone Roses came and played at Middlesex Polytechnic when I was there. That must have been sometime around maybe 1987, 1988.
Right, yes.
And I think I was working on the event in some capacity. But it was like, you don't really notice things, do you? Because it's... And then later you go, oh, yes, they played at my thing.
Yes. It's yes, I know it's quite slightly frustrating knowing that one missed some classic moments.
You're probably missing loads still,
Yes, well, absolutely, and well, it was always with John Peel. John Waters said, his producer, just said, when John Peel reaches puberty, we're in trouble. And I think, in a way, to be into pop music, you have to still be that 16-year-old wanting to hear that 7-inch single, isn't it? That 3 minutes of, pop enthusiasm.
It's being able to kind of plug your heart into that place.
That absolute, and it's mostly when you hear people being very dismissive, like there's just no good music anymore, and you think, actually, that's not. You feel like that's just what an old person.
There's more good music than ever, isn't there?
But I'm sure there is, but we don't know where to go, and we're not that bothered, and
there's the sheer amount of it's overwhelming.
Yeah, and finding someone to curate it and find out where to go to hear it. So I was very lost when John Peel left, because it was like, oh, I don't know now.
Yeah, no, I'm very much the same. It's like a kind of we need those people.
Yeah, and trust.
Some of those magazines that came up later, like Everett True started Careless Talk Costs Lives, that magazine. Which was towards the end. Was that the end of the 90s? Probably beginning of the noughties, actually. Careless Talk Costs Lives. That was good. That was a little sort of. It was print media was dying.
Yes.
And there were a few kind of brave souls that sort of soldiered on with some kind of nicely curated things. I mean, and it was good. It gave platforms to bands. The band I was still in with my wife Sadie, Mômo, they kind of gave us quite a lot of space and stuff. So it was, you look for the places where you can find some kind of sense of curation.
Yes, it would be good. So what happened after MAP? Yeah, this was
Well, after MAP, I got together with some people they were all based in Surrey, but I was put in contact with one of them, and we formed the band Supermodel.
Right.
And Supermodel, we licensed our stuff to Fire Records, and Dave Barker, who did the Jazz Butcher and all of sort of. So
he was from Glass Records, wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah. So he'd come over from Glass and Creation. I think he'd been involved in the sort of setting up of Creation to some degree, but he was kind of our man at Fire Records, and our press officer Billy Reed, who's very much on the scene everywhere now still, not a great collaborator. So Supermodel, we did quite a lot of stuff actually. Went to America a few times.
Right, and this was your 4-piece band here.
Yeah, so I was the bass player doing backing vocals. And Triani was the sort of lead singer. He's now got a record label called Soliti, who are based in Finland. And there was him and Wolsey, who was the guitarist who produced Hardfire's album, weirdly. And Lindsay, who was the drummer, who also kind of stayed on with me into Departure Lounge, which came out of Supermodel. Supermodel, yeah, we had a single called Penis, Size and Cars, and we did 3 albums, and of course having a single like that brought us a little bit of attention.
Yes.
From the police, actually, while we were making the video, because when we were doing the video, we shot everything ourselves with our friend David, who had a camera, and part of it, there were these kind of kids hanging around. They said, "Can we bring your video?" And we're like, all right, put this leather jacket on and look hard. And I think this boy was about 11 or something. And so then he goes off home and says to his dad, "Oh yeah, I've been in a music video." And Dad goes, "Oh yeah, who's that then?" "Oh, I don't know, it's something about penis size." So Dad calls the police, and it all got a bit out of hand. So they had to go through all the footage to make sure we weren't nonces.
Oh. Oh.
But it was a story for the press, wasn't it? Kind of like.
Yes, it was a bit strange, wasn't it?
Not quite the right sort of thing. Supermodel was very like that. It was it was a classic case of massively putting our foot in it at all the crucial moments when things could have gone so well.
And what was tour in America like for you?
Well, it was a huge adventure, wasn't it? It was. We kind of we did. Joey Ramone had a club in New York, Coney Island High. We played there, and we played in South by Southwest two or three times, I think.
Blimey.
No, it was amazing because you were hanging out with members of Blondie and things like that, and because they're kind of like Anglophiles and they like their English music.
Yes.
So you're kind of like, we're very much. We did the Flaming Lips car park experiment and things like that. So it was like a huge adventure. All these kind of people who you think you're never going to meet because they're American, you sort of start realising that they're also still alive and still doing stuff. And you're not a million miles away. And when we're in Departure Lounge, that kind of got turbocharged because by that stage we're hanging out with Lee Hazelwood and Elvis's guitar player and stuff like that, and it's just getting a bit out of hand. Bob Dylan's pedal steel player joining us.
Well, that's very nice. Did you, because you did 3 albums, are you on fire? Did you get licensed to any record label in America at this stage?
Supermodel, yeah. We had this sort of weird thing with a company called Facility, and they got what was called a production and development deal, and they had basically a whole load of money to pay for us to do some more recording. So we went to Nashville, and I think we spent about 4 weeks recording in Nashville. And of course, there was a producer, and we'd done all of these songs. We'd sort of made them ourselves on the way we wanted them to sound. But then the Americans wanted us to come and record them again in their studio.
Right.
So they spent a lot of money trying to emulate what we'd already done, and paying for expensive session musicians and orchestral arrangers and people who had done this and people who had done that from name band there and name band there.
Was this was this for your first album?
No, this one, it never got released, this one, in the end, because although Columbia USA put up the money, we then came back and did kind of a showcase at the Falcon in Camden, and Columbia UK, Mr. David Eastaugh, came along and walked out during the first song, said we were too old. They weren't signing anyone over 21.
God, how rude.
Yeah, very rude, yeah.
Mr. Eastaugh. Oh, that's such a shame.
So that was that. But it was an interesting adventure, and
So you did two. You had 2 albums released. One on God Bless Records.
Yeah, Apocalypse Now, which was, I think, absolute work of art. Columba Ma was kind of like messy teenage fan club having a car crash with Messy Dinosaur Jr., which is kind of where our heads were at the time.
Yes.
But Apocalypse Now, we went off into Ennio Morricone on acid sort of territory. But it was all really fucked up. It was kind of like very much, you create something beautiful and then you break it. And that somehow imbues it with a soul.
Yes.
A different kind of a soul. I mean, I get this with listening to Sparkle Horse and people like that, where there's something that's inherently broken. It's painstakingly well recorded, but there are all these sort of sounds and broken things going on within that sound.
So will we ever see the 3rd album, do you think?
Well, I think, Cherry Red mentioned something, but that kind of went a bit quiet. I mean, we're not terribly... I mean, we are responsive. We're sort of like, yeah, go on then. And then we kind of go off the boil. And so things go off the boil because we'll busy, aren't we? You know, with other things.
Yes.
I think when it came to it, I mean, I really like a lot of those American recordings now, but it was not really entirely what we were about. Some of it was, but they had this thing about us playing in the pocket, in inverted commas. So as a bass player, I had to play kind of in the center of the beat. So we were being produced, and it was like, if they're not careful, they're going to turn us into Green Day or something, which we're really not. We're not that at all in any kind of way. And even that is a kind of like the next stage down from that is Busted or something like that.
Or
don't turn us into something like that, you know.
A boy band.
There was a sort of, a 30-something boy band at the time.
On speed.
Playing in the pocket really well.
But it's interesting because
we had done before, which was perfectly fine.
Yeah, because I did an interview with a guy from It's Immaterial, and they went to America to record the album, and they realised, I think they just absolutely hated it. So they would do the recording in the afternoon during the day, and then the producer would go off, and they went and kept recording in the evening, not telling them that actually they're going to release the stuff that they did on their own in the evening out of session, because they just hated what they were doing during the day. It was kind of an interesting story. It's a bit like, but they had to go along and pretend because they just thought things would get a bit difficult otherwise. But well,
they're kind of quite aggressive. I found it quite aggressive working with Americans at that point. There was very much we were kind of given a pep talk when we got there. It's like, you know, first of all, they kind of lure you in with, we love your stuff, man. You guys are so cool. Blah, blah, blah. And then when they got you in the studio, it's like, okay, so what we say goes. And if you don't like it, you know what you can do.
Yes. Do you know who was your producer for that third album?
Well, the American stuff.
Yeah.
There was a chap called Joe Baldridge. Nice guy, but he was working kind of in partnership with a kind of manager fella called Mike Dixon. And, you know, these are kind of, Mike Dixon's quite a big shot. He's kind of behind Ron Sexsmith and people like that. And we kind of disgraced ourselves at South by Southwest the last time we played there. We were due to go on to LA and play at River Phoenix's club. And but after we thought we played a blinder of a gig, actually. It was a place called Maggie May. It was really good fun. We thought it'd been great. It was really messed up and everything was getting thrown around a bit, but it was exciting, and there was a lot of laughter and stuff and fun. But I think Mike had brought down loads of industry people, and they were expecting to hear the songs that we had recorded, and of course we're singing songs about kind of ruder things.
Well, yes,
and he was really embarrassed, and he phoned me up at about 3 a.m. later that night and said, "I'm calling the rest of the tour off. We're booking your flights. You're going home."
Blimey, he was in a strop, wasn't he?
Jesus. Yeah, I thought, you fucking prick.
Yeah.
But I was scared, you know, kind of like there's a lot of guns in Nashville.
Yes, well, I would imagine
it's kind of part of the culture, and it's,
you had started to push him to that point where he could have been a Phil Spector, couldn't he?
I was starting to feel that things could get a bit hairy. I mean, that was probably me being paranoid as well.
Yeah, the drugs don't help, do they? But all the same, yes, they're a bit like, my God, this could end. And also that 90s period in America was weird because we started with, you know, like, I don't know, Kurt Cobain, and it was all very groovy, wasn't it? And we ended with Woodstock 99 with, you know, the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Limp Bizkit. And
isn't it funny how everything sort of slowly became sanitized
and just marketed as this kind of, and then it ended with that. So then that obviously was all over. So you sort of on the third album, obviously the band had enough at that point. Did you then What was your?
Well, we did Apocalypse Now, which was, I guess, the final album, really. And we, it cost something like 25 quid to record, and then we mastered it at Abbey Road, which was really funny. And at Abbey Road, we had a conversation saying, "This is kind of dead, isn't it?" And it was generally agreed that yeah, probably. We'd had our chances, and there'd been quite a few actually. And it was funny. I loved Supermodel. It was such a laugh.
God, you need to write this book, don't you, on this point?
But we then became. Well, Lindsay joined up with Tim Keegan, and Tim Keegan had a band called Homer, and it became the Homer Lounge, and then I joined, and it became Tim Keegan and Departure Lounge, and then that became Departure Lounge. And Departure Lounge, we had quite a good run of events. Again, going quite a lot of stuff in America. Did tours with the Go-Betweens actually, and who became friends with Grant and Robert Forster. We did quite a lot of stuff with them. A lot of stuff with Robin Hitchcock. Did a tour.
Oh, God, Robin.
Tim was Robin's kind of right-hand man for the years preceding me joining his band, so Tim already had a relationship with Robin.
Right.
So we did a big tour with Robin across America and a couple in England. And I think I picked up quite a lot of ideas from watching Robin, which I wasn't really aware that I was picking up. But that was an interesting time. And so in America, everybody treats you so nicely until they get to know you, and then kind of then the ugly stuff starts happening.
It's a cruel world. You did 3 albums with Departure Lounge, didn't you?
We've done more now. I mean, we did another one came out a couple of years ago, Transmeridian. It's got
yes.
Peter Buck plays on one of those ones. Again, through Robin, because Peter was friends with Robin.
Okay, because he teamed up with Luke, didn't he?
That's right, Luke Haynes. Yeah.
Who did a fantastic book a couple of years ago, didn't he? Which he.
That's right, yeah.
Just
That's another book I haven't read.
Yes, I know. You just need him to do an audio book, and then you can listen to it while
driving.
Yes. So no, that was yes. Peter Buck's been in a lot of places, hasn't he? Really.
Yeah, he plays on we've got another one that we're just finishing up now, and he plays on that one as well.
God, you can't.
Just very generous, he doesn't ask for money. He's kind of offered, and it's just like, yes, please.
Yeah.
The first time I went to see
if you must.
Oh God, you again. Yeah. So when I went to see the Jazz Butcher, going back to the Jazz Butcher, jumping back in time again, 1985.
Yes.
Smith Palais, and I went to see them because they were playing a gig, but they were first on the bill. And there was a band called the Faith Brothers, you may remember, who was second on the bill. They had a single which I really liked at the time, can't remember what it was called. But the main band were called REM. And so it was purely by chance I got to see REM, just because I went to see the Jazz Butcher. And as sort of synchronicity might have it, Tim Keegan was also at that gig in 1985, but of course we didn't get to meet each other for another 10 years.
Yes. So, God, it's just an amazing. I think that's just lovely, isn't it? To use that word, it's just nice the way all these things interconnect. And yes, but when you went to see
story, isn't it?
When you went to see a band, you saw 2 others or 3 others, and that's what I meant earlier about just all these little art centres and alternative nights. They'd often have 3 bands, and now you look back and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe that was the support band."
But I remember finding REM absolutely mesmerising, and I went out and bought Mômo, I think, was the album that was out at the time, or maybe Fables of the Reconstruction, one of them. Life's Fitzpatrick.
I think they were still on our IRS records at that point, weren't they?
It was that, yeah. But it was I just loved that. I was really into, apart from the Hawkwind and the Gongs at that point, I was kind of into a lot of American stuff, more so than a lot of English stuff.
Were you into that? Were you into that slightly new Paisley scene with people like Dream? Was it Dream Academy? Steve Wynn and what was his band? Yes,
no, not really.
There was another band called Green. There was Green on Red as well happening at that point.
Yeah, there was the odd single that kind of like came my way. I never really did much delving unless I was completely grabbed by something. So I think a lot of things did sort of pass me by, because when I did get into something, I really, really did get into it, and then it would kind of blot out a lot of other stuff that I could be getting into.
Yes. Well, it's easily done, isn't it, really? I think it was Husker Du that I remember. Two years of Husker Du were quite amazing.
I think REM led me to Husker Du, probably, weirdly, strangely.
It was an amazing time. So you did, with Departure Lounge, you did 3 albums during that period, and then obviously one recently. So one album was on Bella Union Records at that stage, wasn't it? Too
Late to Die Young.
Yes.
And that was then. That was our joke. It's like, well, it's too late to die young now. We're already old. We must have been, mid-30s, I suppose. I don't know.
We probably hadn't even been to a doctor by then, had we? Whereas, later on in life,
So that was quite funny. We loved doing that album because it was with Kid Loco producing, and we had all really fallen in love with this album called A Grand Love Story, which Kid Loco had released. And he did a DJ spot somewhere in Surrey, and Lindsay, our drummer, who had been in Supermodel, had a cassette, I think, of us having a rehearsal, and he gave it to Kid Loco. Lindsay could speak French a little bit as well, so I think that might have helped. In fact, Lindsay and Tim could both speak French. I got an O in French at A-level, remember, so I wasn't trusted to speak French.
No.
But, so he just went up to him, and this is how something amazing came to be, because then Kid Loco actually did get in touch with us, and we were like, fuck, Kid Loco, he wants to do something. This is amazing.
God,
and it was great. It was really nice working with him.
Well, I'm not surprised. And when that came out, did you know when you were recording that album that this was going to be the last album for quite a few, decades?
No, we thought that this was kind of like the beginning of something bigger, It's like, as often the case, it's sort of, we're on a trajectory, and how do we kind of like keep that trajectory going? But of course, at that point, some strange decisions were made, and a move to Nashville happened while we were in Nashville. One of the bands got married to a girl in Nashville, and the other 2 members of the band moved to Nashville for a bit, and they did a kind of residency. I stayed in England because I had other reasons to stay in England. And I think I came out for a couple of gigs here and there. But it was, we lost momentum, really.
Well, quite. I wonder if that was the same time when Taylor Swift also moved to Nashville. There must have been some energy vortex.
Yeah. I think it's like in places like that, you are being a kind of indie English band on Bella Union is quite maybe exotic's not quite the right word, but for Nashville, we're a little bit left field. We're quite sort of, we're not doing those things with pedal steels that a lot of the bands in Nashville are doing.
Yes.
They're doing something a bit different, which they find really entrancing. I remember people at the Lamb Shop really liked us and stuff.
Oh, of course. And
there were some cool people there, there were a lot of cool people there. They made sort of really lovely music.
There was a period, there was people like Gillian Welsh and Stacey Earle and Alison Krauss, and there was a whole scene, wasn't there, of amazing Americana. Uncle Tupelo? And the Drive-By Truckers as well were quite a band. So there was, it was a sort of bit of a new scene, wasn't there, happening at that point?
And we did another album in Nashville as well, as part of Belly Union, an instrumental album called Jet Lag Dreams. And that came out on some jazz label in America called Instinct. And it came out in Naive in Europe and Belly Union. Simon from Belly Union was a real supporter of the band, and he really gets behind things. Now, of course, he's gone from strength to strength, and he's got Flaming Lips and John Grant and Spiritualized and Mercury.
Yes.
And I have sort of like my friendship with Simon has endured over the years, and Simon released a Lost Horizons album, his band,
right?
And I played in that band as well. So that was before lockdown, I guess.
Blimey, there you go. So what then with them in Nashville and you not in Nashville? Then where do you go for that next period of your musical journey?
Well, at that point, I'm getting busy with my wife doing our band La Mômo, which is a secret band, which is great. We've recorded lots of stuff, Gordon Raphael's recorded some stuff, Kid Loco. We've recorded some stuff on the barge at Twickenham. Ian Brodie let us use the barge when he used to own it from the Lightning Seeds. Ian Brodie's always been supportive.
Well, nice.
We're quite cheeky. It's sort of like the Banana Splits. We call it like the Banana Splits having a crash with Stereo Lab and the Buzzcocks or something. I don't know. There's various ways of doing it. It's almost like a weird experiment. We're sort of seeing what can you do without releasing anything.
Well, yeah. So how much have you recorded that?
Got about 6 EPs worth of stuff, probably.
Are you building up
20,
to some
20 tracks? I think it's coming a point where a release is going to have to occur. I think we've been enjoying being a new band for the last 20 years.
Yes.
Actually, the last 25 years, we've been a new band because we've never released anything. And what's nice is the people come to see us because they've seen us before, but they don't get to hear our stuff in the interim, so they don't have the chance to get bored of us.
No.
So by the time they come back to see us, they're like really into it because they kind of remember it from before. And Sadie's extremely charismatic. It's just a duo now. It's just me and Sadie. I'm hammering away on an electric guitar like a complete banshee, and she's banging around with a big floor tom and singing and playing guitar and being
fantastic.
The energy. There's just a ball of energy. The set we do to a backing tape, and the whole thing lasts 27 minutes. So even if you hate it, it will be over.
Yeah, well, you could have that as your strap line. It will be.
It's great. We've had a lot of support. Everett True, again, as I said, he kind of really got behind us. John Peel played us. I saw John Peel in Brighton at some music thing, and I had a sort of really tiny mini CD with 2 tracks on it, and I gave him that, and he played it kind of 2 days later on his show. So yeah, we had a little bit of whenever we did do something, people responded. And our merch, we made La Mômo knickers, which of course that sold out really quickly.
Yes,
so people bought La Mômo knickers. Yeah.
So La Mômo is the name of the band.
Yeah, La Mômo. There's a circumflex accent over the first O.
Yes.
There is a Facebook page. I think we will release something. We had a chat we went to see Seb Rochford at who was in Panda Bear, remember them?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he just played a gig a couple of days ago at the Rose Hill Tavern, which is my favourite place in Brighton for gigs. And the Rose Hill have got a little label, and La Mômo did a gig there quite a while ago, and the people who run it saw us when we came in a couple of days ago. We're like, oh my God, it's you guys. We've got to do something. So maybe we'll put something out with them.
Blimey.
And then we won't be a new band anymore, so we'll have to split up.
Yeah, well, musical different. Don't do musical differences.
No, it'd be something more explosive, I'm sure.
Yes, my God, that would be so dramatic. Yeah, so that's. But then
we'll make sure we release everything first, I think.
Yes, a sort of special CD box set or something.
So yeah, there was that, and there was also a band called Celebricide that I joined, and in many ways, Celebricide is the most. I don't know. It was an incredible band. I saw them before I joined them. There was a different bass player called Paul, and then I joined as a bass player, and he left. And that was some heavy shit. Celebricide. We did an album called "See the Bad Nurse Make Disease,"
yes.
Which is something that George Bush said played backwards. Can't remember what it was that he said, but there's a story online somewhere. But Celebricide was quite a band. You know, Nick Cave used to come and see us, and it was definitely, we plumbed a sort of scene. I think someone compared it to sort of pulp with kind of like Roxy Music and The Fall or something like that. But it was dark, and really quite funny as well.
Right. So you had John on drums at this stage.
John Paul. He did do a stint on drums. It was really, the main drummer had been Emily, and Emily was really the kind of like beating heart, you know, being a drummer of Celebricide. Emily had a baby, and so John joined while she was kind of pregnant and early parts of that. And then after that, we didn't kind of like do much. We kind of like fizzled out.
And what about Sadie? Was she on?
Sadie played a couple of things on the album, yeah. So she can't remember what she did now. It may have been a bit of vocals, yeah. Yes, she did. There was a song called "Sex Is Not Enough Anymore." Although I think that was Emily doing I can't remember who was doing backing vocals. But I really recommend anybody listen to Celebricide because I think it's absolute genius.
Right. Top tip.
Bloody amazing. I still have those songs going around my head. They haunt me. They're so. Tim Leppard, the main protagonist, his backstory it's so horrible. What he's lived through, and but he's a real artist. He really, I don't know. If ever there was someone who was the real thing, it's Tim Leppard.
Right? Is he still with us?
He is still with us, yeah. And him and Steve Barber, who was the kind of musical brain behind the band, really. They just had this couple of years where their collaboration was untouchable. You'd turn up to a gig in Celebricide and you'd really feel like you'd just stepped into some saloon bar in the Wild West and you were the bad boys coming into town, without it being a cliche. I know it is a cliche, but there was just something about us that just felt dangerous, subversive, and beautiful all at the same time. I was really proud to be in that band.
Yes. God, that's
the same with Mômo. I mean, we're really proud to have been in that band. Again, I joined, the band existed before I joined. And they were an all-girl band, and then I went and ruined it with my bloody chromosomes.
Yes. It's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky. So then what happens after that musical adventure?
Well, Crayola Lectern was sort of being born. It was a long, protracted birth. But I had a piano. I got a piano in the early 2000s and was just playing it a lot and not thinking about what I was doing. I mean, I've never really thought about the writing. That's kind of like a dream state. So, but as you kind of like you're slowly and surely building a bit of a body of work. And I was sort of like learning to be a songwriter, but without consciously thinking about it. It was sort of a subconscious, unconscious process. I was like, I wasn't trying to do anything. But then one morning I woke up with the word Crayola Lectern, 2 words, in my head for no reason at all. And I just thought, oh, that'd be a good name for an artist thing if I ever wanted to do some piano stuff. And I was really into Robert Wyatt by this point. I've been hugely affected by Robert Wyatt in the early 2000s. And people like William D. Drake.
Oh, yes. He was also player. In the is he the distant cousin of Nick, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And second cousin, I think. And I was enthralled by his stuff and the stuff he did in Scene and, of course, Cardiacs. And his character, I just found it absolutely magical. So I was sort of like, there was this feeling of Robert Wyatt, William D. Drake, and Sparklehorse.
Right.
And they were my obsessions. They were my 3 musical obsessions, you know, to the exclusion of a lot of other excellent music. And inevitably, without meaning to, I think I sort of harnessed some of the things that they were doing, even if it wasn't the music, something to do with their spirits or something. It was about kind of like feeling a sense of belonging. If I could only bring William D. Drake and Robert Wyatt together, I know that William D. Drake likes Robert Wyatt. I don't know what Mark Linkous liked from Sparklehorse. I don't know if he ever heard Robert Wyatt.
Right.
But I saw him play once.
Robert Wyatt?
No, Mark Linkous.
Right.
I went to Robert Wyatt's house where Robert and Alfie, Robert's wife, who's his manager and also writes a lot of his lyrics, I'd been sending them my Crayola Lectern albums. And I sent them the first 2. And I always got a postcard back from Robert. And Alfie writes his lyrics. And I kind of got chatting to Alfie a lot more in lockdown and asked her if she would be interested in doing any artwork, forgetting that she's an octogenarian who's kind of like got her own health issues as a full-time carer for her husband. And so she said, well, no. But send me some stuff, you know, I quite like to hear it, you know, I like the other bits. And so I did. And she was very responsive, and we built up a really beautiful, for me, correspondence where she told me what was going on in her mind when she was listening to some of the music, pictures that were coming up, talked a lot about her life and Robert, and we became friends. And in the end, she just presented me with some work that she'd done that I could maybe use for the album cover for my 3rd Crayola album, which she had done on an iPad because someone had given her an iPad for her birthday.
Right.
And because she was sort of struggling with doing collage and painting, this seemed like a new medium for her to be able to do something. So she was literally just trying it out, and she just did some Disaster Moon sort of ideas and sent them to me. So I'm like, right, they're going on the cover. Because I love her work. It graces all of Robert's covers. She's done, I think she's a Fred Frith album. She did an Ivor Cutler book, children's stories. But But she also does a lot of Robert's lyrics, and they're just, I kind of slightly idolise them, I suppose. I think they're, I don't know, they're sort of like, well, don't tell them this, but they're my surrogate parents. They invited us to their house, me and Sadie, and of course their politics are fantastic, and their line very much, certainly with Sadie's family's kind of background, they're really similar to hanging out with Sadie's family. So we all felt very much at home when we came in. Alfie made us a stew.
Yes.
We were there for a few hours, and it was my birthday. And Alfie gave me a print of the artworks he did for Sleep, which is one of Robert's albums. And I couldn't believe it. I was sitting there at a table with my number one hero for 4 hours. And it was nice. It wasn't weird. It was just normal.
Yes, because I remember listening to John Peel during that early period where he would be playing a lot of Ivor Cutler, but also that he was Robert Wyatt's Pigs. Remember?
Yeah, Pigs in there.
Oh God, Pigs. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I know, and there was it was just a great period. I mean, I loved the way Peel would always just pull an album, like that, and you get to hear quite a lot of it, wouldn't you? Over that,
it was all about character, wasn't it? Individual character again, to be yourself. It's like, John Peel sort of recognised that. We listened to some really weird stuff, didn't we, in those years?
Well, yeah, and it was also stuff from he played a lot of Welsh bands, actually.
Gorky's Zygotic Monkey, I think.
Well, it was Daft Bluggy that I remember him playing.
Right before, yeah.
Right back then, and it was just kind of like amazing. Like, it was, he curated
Welsh language stuff.
Yes, I was fluent in Welsh after that. No, I wasn't. But So then, with this project, you had that was the Fall and Rise of, which was on Bleeding Heart Recordings.
Yeah.
So that came out. So was that the main project that you were working on during that particular decade, or were you working on other bits?
Yeah, when I was still doing Le Mômo. I was still doing Coming to the End of Celebricide. I was still doing. Departure Lounge never split up, but we weren't really doing anything. I was doing bits and bobs with other friends and stuff.
And when did you run into Bick at that stage?
Well, I've known Bick again since the days of Matt. So again, this goes back in time. Matt supported Bick's band, Panic Sphere.
Right.
With another incredible band called Huge Baby. And this, I think, was one of probably in my top 5 gigs that I'd been involved in playing, just because it was such an incredible night. Matt were on first, we did what we do. Then I think it was Huge Baby who were like they were Celebricide good, they were. And then it's Panic Sphere, which had Tim Smith on bass, Dave Francolini on drums, Bick on guitar, and John Poole on guitar. And it was like being attacked by sharks. It was they were incredibly funny and extremely dangerous at the same time. It was like really out of control, but somehow they were very fast. Their chops are extremely developed. These are people that play things I can never dream of playing, but they don't seem to find it difficult. That's what always surprised me about them. They're never kind of like looking down going, hey, look at me, I'm amazing. They're just sort of having the time of their lives and doing something amazing.
Right.
Together in this complete, beautifully organised, but fucked up cacophony. And that Panic Sphere gig was like, Jesus, wow. And I think round about that time I saw No Means No, and at the time I was saying these were the 2 best gigs I'd ever been to in my life. Yeah, so Panic Sphere, but I knew Bick. I think we went to a gig once. I think we went to see Moonshake. But no, Bick, didn't know him very well. He came to see Matt, and apparently he said to John that he really liked Matt because we were so anti-scene. Of course, what Bick didn't know was that we were desperately trying to fit in. We wanted to be part of a scene, but we just were a square peg and surrounded by round holes, and so we didn't quite fit in.
Yes.
So we were always kind of like, well, we weren't quite right. There was something not quite right about Matt, as there are with a lot of interesting bands,
Well, quite, yes. Oh, God, it's a shame this is all really well documented with pictures and recordings, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there were quite a few things in the map archive here and there.
Yes.
Photos, and there's a video of a gig somewhere.
Yes. So then you took quite a bit of time before you followed it up with Happy Endings.
Yeah, that took a few years. I've been working in a care home, and they don't pay very much in care homes, and I've got children, and so I'm doing night duties, taking a Casio tone in. It was a care home for people with challenging behaviour,
right,
and sort of complex learning difficulties and mental health, and so it was a lively place. I worked there for way too long. But yeah, I was doing night duties, and I'd take a Casio tone in and sit in the office sort of working on things like horn arrangements. I'd sort of like, and then I'd come home in the morning, and after a night duty, you're kind of out of it. But you're in a good place for creativity in a way. And so, I'd take children to school, come back home and do some stuff on the piano that kind of like linked in with some of the stuff I might have been doing that night in the care home on the Casio, and recording things onto my phone so I didn't forget them. But not being fully aware when I'm doing it. I think this is really crucial about the way I work, is it's kind of like sort of I'm not dreaming, but that bit before you fall asleep, hypnagogia, I think it's, you're capturing things. If you can stay awake to capture the thought that you're having, it's kind of a bit like that. But also just letting your hands do the finding the sounds rather than your brain. And your brain either goes, oh no, move your finger, or it goes, oh no, do that again. Maybe move that finger now. And then
right.
So it's kind of like, it's very not forced. And I think that's another reason it took a long time. I'm really glad it took a long time. I think having that limitation of no money really served me well. Because otherwise I think I would have just come out with a bunch of songs which I didn't really believe in. There's something very real about all of my albums to me. They just seem like the most real things I've ever done. They feel like a part of me, definitely.
Did you go in the studio and record those all in one session? Was that over a period of time, Happy Endings?
No, Happy Endings, some of the pianos were recorded in studios, different studios, where I could afford. Sometimes I'd be doing a session. I did a session with my friend Greaves. We did a project called The Helicopter of the Holy Ghost. And on one of those sessions, Greaves paid for the, Billy Reeves, he paid for the session. And he said, well, you do a couple of your piano things. So he kindly helped finance a couple of the piano parts. And then when I had piano parts recorded, I'd take them home and then start building the arrangements up at home. And then John Paul was involved in those records, and he took on quite a large role when it came to sort of keyboards and some of the production values. So John plays a very crucial role in that. And Alistair, the trumpeter at the time, he was just playing cornet and trumpet, but his soul just sort of brought all of those ideas very much to life.
Yes.
And Alistair and John are such different people. It's a really sort of a very diverse trio of individuals coming together. I've always loved it when people who play extremely aggressive music play something beautiful. I like to hear them play beautiful stuff because I know their pain because I can see it in their sort of show-off music and their fast stuff. And
right.
I know what their pain is. I recognise their pain. I just want them to just like sit in their pain and do something which is not trying to escape it.
Mm.
And I think John does that so incredibly beautifully. So yeah, he played on the first two albums and had a lot of the kind of the depth of the bass, the sub, the wide, expansive sort of sound of the record. A lot of that's due to John. And of course, he recorded his parts on an 8-track mini disc recorder. You know, it's like there's no big tech going on here.
Yeah. Amazing. God, that's and Bick as well came in.
Well, Bick, you know, he's my favourite guitarist on this planet, so that's quite nice having him available. He's always been so generous and helpful and encouraging. He's generous with his words. He's generous in his kind of like, let's get something going together. You know, it's like he's a very, you know, he's an extremely enriching friend.
Yes.
And as is Joe, his partner, Joe Spratman, they're an incredible couple. They play a massive role in, you know, they kind of help. They've helped keep things going, really, on a really basic level. But sort of their endorsement has really helped an awful lot. So with Bick, I'd say, well, there's a bit sort of between 3 minutes 12 and 4 minutes 3. I just, you know, and I could have given a couple of kind of cues, like emotional word cues, or play this like it's the last guitar solo you will ever play. I think that was the last thing I said to him. And he just takes it up a stage further, and it's just like every time he does it, it's literally made me cry every time he's done something. It's like, oh my God, you've just done the thing that needed doing, only better. And it's, I don't know how he does it.
Yes, God, that's amazing.
Wow. So yeah, I'm really lucky, and they really care. Why do people care? It's so nice.
It's quite a relief, isn't it? Yes. God, you must have been so pleased with that album.
I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon with the first, second, and third albums. I'm just completely over the moon with them. They are my favourite albums of my life. And first album, you know, Bleeding Hearts, they released it as double vinyl. I mean, that was a bit brave, wasn't it?
Yes.
A debut album, double vinyl. Couldn't believe it. I thought, right, okay, if you insist. So that was good. Unfortunately, quite a lot of them were warped. But, yeah.
Never. And what was the happy endings on then?
Happy Endings was on Onomatopoeia, which is the label owned by Nick Vaughan. And he's put out lots of interesting stuff. He puts out Stephen Evans, Hurtling, Magic Brother, William D. Drake was where I first came upon That Appear. Nick Bourne was the name of the chap who runs it, and he lets you put your thing out as you want to put it out. So if you've got ideas in terms of presentation and all of that, Nick is just behind you. It's like once he's said yes, he's with you.
Right.
And him and Hillary, his partner, it's like they were beamed down from somewhere to help us, and they didn't need to. Again, you don't do these things on your own. I think without a label, maybe I wouldn't have finished the record. Without my friends, I wouldn't have finished the record. Without Sadie's encouragement, I wouldn't have finished the record. You get stuck in your own cyclical kind of loops of catastrophizing and sort of losing your nerve and sort of thinking maybe it's no good, and it's other people that keep it going.
God, that's magic.
Yeah, I'm extremely blessed, and I'm aware that a lot of my friends who do release stuff, they don't have all of those things, and yet I'm the one that does the moaning.
Yes, that must annoy them.
Yeah, poor me.
Yes,
I've only had another review.
I know.
They loved it, darling.
Another double vinyl album.
No, I do recognise how incredibly fortunate I've been.
So last year you brought out the third album, didn't you? Disaster Noon.
Yeah.
So what are you sort of working on at the moment? Is there the next project in the pipeline?
Yeah, at the moment I've got a few things. Again, quite a few things, and like Disaster Noon, it's in a hell of a mess. My recording, the way I record things, is really arse about tit. If I take my stuff, my files in to a studio, they'll just look at it and shake their heads.
Right.
They might suck through their teeth. So I kind of and this is sort of how I ended up doing Disaster Noon on my own in the end. I didn't have John to help with the production. It's the first thing I've ever really produced. And a lot of that, I'm using things I don't understand, things of compression. I don't really understand compression. I'm using presets, but I don't know if I'm using them, and then tweaking them, but I don't know what I'm doing. But once it starts sounding, things are sitting in a way which that day sounds good to me, then I kind of move ahead. I have an extra problem because I've got noise-induced hearing loss, and I don't hear any of the very high frequencies, tiny bits in words, t, th, f, k.
Right.
What makes all those sounds different? If I take my hearing aid out, everything sounds like f, 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 f. So if like that, that's what I hear when I'm not wearing my hearing aids. So weirdly, music seems to sound better when I'm not wearing my hearing aids.
God.
But speech sounds better. I've always had a problem listening to lyrics, though, which is interesting. But that might be because I've also have ADHD. I was diagnosed at 56. So I don't know what came first, me not listening, me not paying attention, or me not hearing. I think a combination of those things has probably always played a part. And I think that's why I kind of also approach music from a fairly dream-like perspective. I don't like things to be too clear at first, and I don't really like pinning music down with lyrics. It annoys me that I think I have to do that, because I really like making instrumental music, and I don't see myself as a singer.
Yes.
But I'm also aware that the lyrics that I have come up with on the record are good, and they mean something useful. And they're kind of characterful. They're not over earnest. it's difficult. There's so many things you have to skirt as a white male of a certain age, being a songwriter. There's so many things not to do because you're going to come across as that bloke. And none of us want to be that bloke. So, yeah, skirting earnestness, neediness, all these horrible things that just don't, luckily I'm not very needy anyway, and I'm not very earnest anyway. Although the things I am earnest about, I'll kind of make my point in maybe a more angry way rather than a "oh, I care" kind of way. It'll be barbed somehow, or it'll be hidden behind humour. But
yes, blimey.
I think lyrics. Weirdly, I do then enjoy the lyrics once I've done it, but I don't think they should describe the music. It should be. I don't know. That's really complicated.
Do you use different?
Because I don't think about it.
Do you use different techniques to
come up with words?
Yes.
Well, I think some of them have come from like the shapes. I'm playing a piano, and I might be going. Sort of like I've got an idea of a shape of the sound. Occasionally, that has begot maybe a lyrical line, something like that. In fact, that's happened quite a few times. There'll be words, even on the new album, I can think of that have come from shapes. But a lot of my words come from anger, things I'm really pissed off about. And yeah, all that gentle stuff is, a lot of it's sort of finding a palatable way to express dissatisfaction. And I think when I came up with Crayola Lectern, I always saw it as a vehicle to grow old in, something I could do sort of gracefully.
Nice.
And I think that's why I kind of want to be direct, but I want to be poetic. But I want it to mean, it's usually things that are really getting on my nerves that tend to be what end up being the lyrics are about. All things that, they're rarely things that I'm happy about, I must say. I don't really see the point in writing music about things that make me happy. I find it, I just find it a bit performative. Ooh, I'm happy. Here's a happy song. Maybe we'll sell some.
Right.
The thing about Disaster Noon is it's you stick the record on and it starts off really grim. It's like, oh God, what have I bought? It's like it's sort of it's devastating. The beginning, it's like, oh God.
This is sad cornetto.
Yes, it's just. It's not saying, "Ha, thank you for buying me." It's saying, "Yeah, come on now, here we go." Makes Leonard Cohen sound like Kylie Minogue.
Excellent. Well,
so it sets the tone. It's not, and I think this thing about Crayola, it's both my downfall and my strength, is that it's not trying to sell records.
Do you love
not trying to sell records? It's trying to sell art. It's not trying to sell art. It's trying to express art. And ideally, people would buy it. There's only 300 of them in existence. It can't be that hard to bloody sell them, can it? But,
no, God, absolutely. I was just going to say.
You'd be surprised.
So you got it on CD and vinyl and digital download as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
So yes, do you is romantic melancholia your go-to kind of emotional state?
It's normally kind of semi-panic as my normal go-to state. So I've got this side of me that has got that map thing, that bendy, sort of far too much energy. But that's exhausting as well. So I've got this sort of a side that wants to soothe myself as well. So I guess I sort of might lean towards melancholia, but I also lean towards psychedelia. I like weird stuff. I like really unusual chord modulations. I like things that, as Tim Smith make your tummy go funny when you hear them. I mean, the music makes me really, really happy because it's interesting and it's moving around, doing really lovely things. And then the words are dragging you down a bit, maybe, You don't have to listen to them, they're not that loud. But yeah, it's about it's that thing I was talking about, Hawkwind and Gong and that psychedelic thing, immersive. I do still think of listening to music like walking into an environment. You're in a three-dimensional space made of music, and you're bathing in it, and you can explore it. You can go in a different part of the room and feel a different part of the music.
Yes.
It's like a kind of sensory thing almost. But the way that songs and instrumentals modulate and the way they develop, and then the way they kind of go weird, and then they might bring you back to a place that you were kind of relieved about again. It always has this sort of sense of redemption to it. It's like it's always going to walk you home. You're safe in this weird shit, So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you ever manage to get to play live, by the way?
Yeah, I've got another one on March the 7th coming up. Yeah.
Is that
No, I
Cafe
just did one in
Otto?
Guildford. Guildford didn't know quite what had hit them.
Right.
It's quite nice. I liked that because I play a lot in, Brighton and near where I live. Again, because of financial constraints, I haven't really gone very far afield. I do the odd one in London. I did one in Leeds last year, the Brudenell, supporting Cardiac's friends band, which was amazing. So yeah, I do play gigs, usually as a three-piece, sometimes as a duo. Very occasionally, Bob and John have joined us as well, and we've done it as a five-piece.
Nice.
We've been offered a spot in Italy in November, and they might want us to do a five-piece, so I'm going to have to start thinking about how we do that.
Yes. Well, God, that's...
I get very nervous playing gigs because I have a tremor, for which I am between medications because I have, that's my hand.
Yes.
So it's playing piano. Once I'm anxious, can become quite harder than it actually is. So yeah, I'm about to start a new medication for the tremor because I can no longer take the last one, which is a beta blocker, because it gives me asthma attacks. So they're going to try me on this new one. But yeah, so the nerve is a problem, especially with intimate gigs. I'm not a big fan of intimate gigs. And the one on the 7th is going to be an intimate gig. It's in the Cellar Bar in Worthing, which is a lovely place. But everyone's a bit too close now. I'll be looking at my shaking hands, wondering if I'm going to make it or not. There's a voyeuristic element to a Crayola Lectern gig.
Just to add to the pain and the pain.
I was thinking of getting some gloves with a kind of black finger, white finger, just to kind of blur it a bit against the piano keys.
Yes. And what's it like? Because you played at Cafe Otto a few times. Is that quite a nice
Only the
place?
once. Yeah, with Heidi Berry, and who's a dear friend, and of course, herself a massive part of our growing up lives. She was on 4AD, she was on Creation. She's been a friend of my wife, Sadie, for many years, and a friend of mine for the last 25 years as well. So Heidi was sort of dipping her foot back into the live arena. And we did a gig in Brighton at Comedia and another one at Cafe Otto.
Yes.
And we got a desk mix of it. And Dave Barker, who we spoke of earlier, Glass Modern, Fire Creation, offered to put out a CD of the live thing. And so we mixed it and deemed it worthy. So he did that. Yeah, there's only 100 copies, a limited thing.
Wow, that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, it's great, and it's kind of like checking back in with my old friend Dave. You know, it's like a little bit. I like revisiting. I like these old sort of relationships, and the fact that we come back to each other and then bounce off again. But, you know, maybe another 20 years will go.
Yes, and everyone's picking up different experiences and chapters in their life.
Yeah, but it's all part of a bigger story, isn't it? It's kind of like it's a tapestry of all of our stories intertwined.
Yes, I think everyone becomes a bit more humble and sometimes a bit kinder.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's what I also think. But there's sort of we've also had a few knocks, haven't we? So we feel a little bit less, you know, sometimes to sort of feel a little bit like generous with one's spirit.
I think that's so important, you know, as a thing to sort of encouraging each other.
Yes, and we kind of need it at these different times. And I think with age, it just is a whole different gig, really, isn't it?
Well, we're all quite vulnerable. It's, you know, it's like, you know, when I'm doing these kind of songs on Disaster Noon, they kind of sound like, I don't know, they sound like cries for help, half of them, but they're not. They're kind of expressing universal woes in a way, not just woes, but you know, things like isolation, these kind of themes that I might sing about, they kind of became very universal during the pandemic.
Yes,
and I think, you know, the separation, all of this kind of stuff. It's more reflective the way I write. I'm never blaming anything unless it's political, which of course I will blame. But if it's kind of personal, it's more reflective, where no one is really to blame. It's just, this is life. We're all living it, you know. Tell me someone who hasn't experienced something as bad as I've experienced. I'm sure most people have.
Yes, this is one thing that we can almost guarantee in life. You know, on your Hawkwind love, you know, one of my favourite songs, Night of the Hawks.
Yeah.
Did you? What would you put as your kind of favourite or favourites?
Well, my favourite Hawkwind songs.
Yes.
Well, I got really into the Chronicles of the Black Sword when it came out, actually, but that was more of a production thing, I think. I mean, I like the ones that kind of morph lyrically, like you should do that, shouldn't do that, should do that, do that, do that, should do that. You're getting aware, they're cutting your hair, you're getting nowhere. All of this kind of stuff. God, to come up with one. I mean, there's all the obvious ones. Brainstorm, of course. Gosh. As soon as we come off this call, I'm going to think of all of them. I mean, the Levitation album's great. I'm just trying to think of individual tracks. The Hall of the Mountain Grill. The first track on that album, Something Disappear in Smoke. Yeah, that's a good track. I like that. The first track on Hall of the Mountain Grill.
Which is, I'll have a look. Oh, the Psychedelic Warlords.
Yeah. It's all a bit slightly, I don't know. It just really, it's the sound. It just drives you forward. the synths carry you, the motoric beat. You know, I love Can, I love krautrock. I've played a lot of gigs with Demo Suzuki. And I think, you know, the Can, that motoric forward propulsion, Noi did it best, I guess. That Hawkwind do so well as well, but Hawkwind just did it dirty. They weren't hippies, they were kind of sort of more like speed freak, dirty biker, kind of long-haired blokes that hung around with hippies.
Yes.
They kind of brought it together. You know, in the 80s, it was the Crusties, wasn't it? And it was like, felt a bit like a coming together of different tribes in a way. And they all shared a lack of fondness for soap. But lyrically, but sort of in terms of tribes, they were coming from quite different places. It was nice seeing the punks and the hippies kind of joining up a bit. Yes. And then the hippies have gone all weird since then. They've gone all sort of, I don't know, new age brought a lot of wrong-uns to the fore.
Yes, well, the new age, I think it's such a strange, you know, the healing aspect and the slightly...
Yeah, it's like trying to, I don't know, cultural appropriation and everything.
Well, there was a lot of spiritual appropriation going on.
Yeah, I mean, some of it, you know, was really well-meaning. I'm not quite sure what the right word is. But I think there was a lot of fairly kind of, how can I say this without being rude? I just have to be rude. There were quite a lot of rich kids who were just going through the motions of doing it and managing to sustain it. You know, and, later, yes. I think there were a lot of working class people that were kind of running the show. And I think when it was, I think it got kind of infiltrated by the middle classes or something. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm probably one of them. You know, I'm pretty middle class.
It's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky. Anyway, look.
But I did like the thing about the Crusties, where you had the punks and all sorts of people, weren't there? They were kind of like, you could be anything in that whole kind of free festival vibe. So,
oh, yes.
I mean, I did go to some of those things, but not the big ones, not the Stonehenges. There were little things in London, like in Clissold Park and Hackney Homeless Festival and stuff like that, which were really good fun. Yeah. Where Tofu Love Frogs used to play.
Well, there was a guy called Chris Tofu, wasn't there? Who
that was him, yeah, Chris Tofu. I used to know him.
Who's still on the scene? I did an interview with him a few years ago, which was quite delightful. So
I think he sold Afghan rugs for a while.
He does a lot of DJing and put on various events. But
he was a lovely guy. I really liked him.
I think he lives on a boat. I think that's his.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think a lot of people do, actually. Are you in London now, or are you elsewhere?
No, I live in Worthing now. I was in London till the mid-90s, from the mid-80s to the mid-90s. Actually, the late 90s, till about 97, 98. And then I moved to Brighton. And then I was in Brighton till about 2000.
Yes, because Brighton and Bristol became quite hip and happening, didn't they? I think it was there was like the Levellers on one scene, and then it was Porter's Head on another, and Massive Attack. And
there was such amazing stuff came out of Bristol. I think Bristol definitely had the edge on Brighton in terms of good stuff. Massive Attack and every tricky. I was in Brighton, and I'm still in Worthing, which is next to Brighton. I've been in Worthing for 25 years now, but I'm in Brighton most days as well. So, you know, I love it. I love it down here. Moving to Worthing was a good move because it's cheaper than Brighton, and now everybody wants to move to Worthing.
Yes, well, this does happen, doesn't it? So, yes. Well, look, Chris, thank you ever so much for your time. This has been amazing, and yes, there's a lot to Yes, explore there, actually. I've got quite a few little notes. So, yes, well, thank you. And if you want, I can always send you a link to this interview.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. And, to be in such esteemed company, you've been running, as everybody knows about this podcast, and it's just wonderful that you asked me. I'm really chuffed.
Well, no, that's been lovely. So, yes, but look, do keep in touch, and hopefully I'll come to see you play live one day when you're...
Yeah, where are you?
Norwich, a fine city.
Norwich, here we come.
Here we will. I think they're...
There might be somewhere in Cromer.
Cromer, yeah, well, there used to be...
Sheringham.
Nice. Holcombe. There was the West Runton Pavilion, which had the famous for those gigs in the 70s and 80s. But
right. Let's see if they've got an upright piano. Maybe we can.
Yes.
Yeah. No. I mean, our holidays used to all be in Norfolk. We used to go to Bacton every year. And
the gas terminal is delightful.
Yeah, in Mundersley. Yeah, that's.
Oh yes, Mundersley. Yeah. Well, yes, I love the North Norfolk coast, and that's where we sort of saddle up towards, just go a bit further around. There's Wells, and then there's Holcombe.
Wells next, the sea. Yeah.
Next, I know. I can't say it without putting the Tudor, but I don't know. Yes, well, I never normally go that far, but Wells and Holcombe, it ticks all the boxes, really.
Well, being from Bedford, which is the most landlocked town on this island, pretty well. Our closest bit of coast was Hunstanton, I think. My grandparents had a bungalow in Blakeney, not Blakeney, Bacton, so we used to go there every year.
Yeah, no, it's nice. And you go further around, you get Walberswick and Southwold, and it's all quite pleasant, really. It's
very flat.
Yes. Right, I'm going to hit the bed. But look, thank you ever so much, and keep in touch. It's been lovely to meet you. And
yeah, you too, David. Cheers.
Take care with the rest of the year. It's going to be so exciting. Yes.
Yeah, and you too. All the best.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care, Chris. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that was me in conversation with Chris Anderson, talking about his life in music. I'll put some links in the notes below. This has been the C86 Show. Do get in touch if you'd like to. Always nice to hear from you. But in the meantime, have a great week. Stay safe.